When my mom passed away, I thought the hardest part would be losing her. I had no idea that what came next would shape the rest of my childhood. I was sent to live with relatives, and I quickly learned that not every child that loses a parent finds the love and the safety they hoped for. This is what happened after my mom died. After my mom died, everything changed. I remember just a few days after we buried my mom, and if you haven't watched my story time about the time when my mom died, I'll attach it on here. Please watch it so that you get to understand. After my mom died, I remember just a few days after we buried her, I started dreaming about her. Like, I would dream about her every day, and I was always having the same dream every day. In this dream, it was dark at first, and then there was just some brightness somewhere, not in the I don't know if that was a room. There was just some light, like in one spot, and then my mom would appear there. I would run to her, and then she would be like, come with me, come with me. And I would always refuse, like, no, I can't come with you, you're dead. I continued having this dream like for a while. I don't remember like how many days or how long it went on for, but I remember when I was being enrolled into a new school, since I had relocated cities, I opened up to my uncle, and my uncle told me what happens to someone when they die, and I told them they cease to exist, because that's what I've always believed ever since I started studying the Bible, because that's what the Bible says. Like, when someone dies, they cease to exist. That was my answer to him, and he said, yes, so stop paying attention to the dream, because mom is gone, and that person who keeps on calling you in the dream is not her. But in that dream, that woman was my mother. And if you've watched my other videos where I talk about my mother, I always say I've forgotten what she looks like. Her and I resemble like 100%. I think the only difference is my complexion. She was way lighter than me. That's the only difference. That was the only way people could tell us apart. But I look exactly like her. But when I look at myself, I don't see her. The only times I would remember what she looks like is when I refer back to that dream, and I have this old photo of her. When I look at it is when I remember her. And each time when I remember what she looks like, there was a time when she gave birth to one of my siblings. I don't remember if it was her firstborn, because if you watched also my story time about my siblings that I lost, they were my step siblings, because at the time my mom was married to another man who wasn't my father. So I don't know if that was her firstborn or secondborn. I remember like she was just from giving birth, and she was so weak, and I remember like looking at her for a very long time that time. So each time I remember what she looks like, I always go back to that time when she gave birth, and she was seated on the couch, and I was seated on the floor, and I was looking at her, like I was looking at her and looking at her eyes, because in that moment I remember I was like, wow, mom has got nice eyes. And I remember I was holding her fingers. Yeah, by the way, everything I have on me, I got it from her. When I look at my fingers, it's exactly what her fingers look like. I was holding her fingers, and I was just looking at her like, so I always go back to that time, and that's when her face like comes back to my memory. I know I took too long like to tell more stories about after my mom's death, but I don't know, it's just life. And perhaps, it's not an easy topic to talk about. So perhaps at that time I wasn't ready. I'm not saying I'm ready now, but I just feel like this year is going to be the most emotional year for me, because there's something that will be happening to me and for me, and my mom is not going to be around. And normally my life has always been emotional for me, because that's what I always think about. I'm like, wow, this has happened and my mom is not around. Wow, I've grown so much, I'm living this way, and my mom is not around to witness. Wow, I made these mistakes and there was no one to guide me. I wish my mom was around. That's what I always think about. So I just thought I'd tell the story so that when what's about to happen to me this year end happens, maybe by that time I'll be too emotional and I won't talk about it again, and it's gonna take, because if you watch my video when I told the story about when my mom died, I think that was 2021 or 2020, somewhere there, and I was supposed to go on and tell more stories, but I don't know. I started living with a relative who was married. It was a big family like that. There were also like some nieces and nephews, and then there was me, a new addition to that big family. I'm going to say this again and I'll never say it again. This channel is about my stories, my experience, how I led my life. I'm not here to talk about people. So if you're one of my characters in my stories and you think I am here to attack you, no, I'm here to tell my story and I have the right to do so. We went to visit certain relatives of ours, or I don't know if they were friends or family friends, I have no idea. So this person asked my relative to say, who is this? And my relative says, this is my sister's child, my late sister, the one who just died, although she was saying it in vernacular. So if I say it in English, and if I tell you I was hurt when this relative said what she said, you will say I'm just trying to be, like, I'm just trying to victimize myself. So I'm going to say it in Bemba, because Bemba carries so much weight, or let's just say vernacular carries so much weight to words when someone is speaking compared to when you say it in English. I'll say it in English, then I'll say it in Bemba, because she used Bemba when she said it. So she said, this is my late sister's child. She's my niece. You don't feel anything, right? Good introduction, right? This person said, Euyu omwana wa muyashi, sister want, mwipwa want. I don't know if mwipwa is for a guy or it's meant for both genders, but the relative said, this is my niece. If niece has a specific word in Bemba or Nyanja, then I have forgotten, but I'll just say mwipwa wandu emwana wa muyashi wandi, sister wandu yu ino wafulemu anyway, I know how to speak Bemba. Wafumine uyu ino wafumine mukufwa. Do you now get? Okay, let me say it again. Emwana wa muyashi, sister wandi uyu ino wafumine mukufwa. If you compare English and Bemba right now, I'm sure you get what I mean. I just want to say, if you're a parent and perhaps you don't know something, let me tell you something. Kids, don't say this is a kid, so if I say this, she won't get it, he won't get it. If I say this, it will never affect her, it won't affect her. This person is just a kid. Trust me, kids are able to get everything from that same tender age. Yes, and when they grow up, they'll grow up with it. Don't say this is a kid. Be very careful around these kids. Don't traumatize your kids. Be very, very careful. I'm one person who has high expectations. I'm not gonna say right now I do, because from my many lessons that I have learned, my many experiences, I was like, girl, take it down a notch. Stop having these high expectations, because you'll always be getting disappointed. Right now I have changed. But what I'm trying to say is, when I moved in with my relatives, I was like, there's nothing different. This is my family, so there's not, I didn't expect that there would be something different about it. So I was already counting myself as, I am a daughter, I'm a new addition to the family. I am a daughter, I am part of the family. So I wasn't expecting this. Hurt me to the core, because I was like, how would you introduce me in that way? To say this is my late, even the tone of voice. And I'm not saying this relative was wrong for saying that. They weren't wrong for saying it, but the way they said it, the choice of words they used, And perhaps if they said it in my absence, that would have been better, in like saying it in my presence. I got hurt and I was like, oh, okay. And from that point is when I realized, oh, I'm just a niece, because I was taking this person as my parent. And from there, I had to register in my head and say, girl, you're just a niece. Take it down a notch. Why are you taking that high position to say you're a daughter, you're a sister? Take it down a notch. I will tell you that amongst the people in this big family, only 3 people were good to me. Let's leave out the nieces and the nephews. Let's just focus on this family that I took as my parents and my siblings. Out of all those people, only 3 people were good to me. When I say these 3 people were good to me, whatever I'm gonna say now, they were the opposite. There was no physical torture at all, and I wouldn't count chores as mistreatment, because even before my mama died, I was living with my grandmother because my mom was married to another man who wasn't my father, so I couldn't live with my mom because of that. I used to do chores even when I was living with my grandmother. And it's expected in a home, as a family, you're supposed to do chores. So I'm not going to count that as mistreatment, because I understand that as a family, you are supposed to do chores. Even when we had maids, all of us used to do chores. We used to do chores. We all used to do chores, which is acceptable and it's a normal thing. So I never ever took the chores as mistreatment, no. The whole big family used to involve themselves in chores. There was no favoritism at all. Doing chores with my grandmother, it was just, I think, doing dishes. I remember doing some dishes. I used to wash my own clothing, just my own clothing. My grandmother never used to give me her clothes or my grandfather's clothes. It was just my own clothing, and I feel like she did that because she was trying to teach me like how to do my own things. Yes, I don't remember sweeping the house at all. I think it was just the dishes. When it comes to cooking, she just used to make me watch. She's like, this is the way you cook this, this is the way you cook this. Yeah, that was it. But then when I moved in with this relative now, I started doing everything. The cooking, the sweeping, washing. Yeah, washing. The washing was there, yes. I sort of like paused there or hesitated because I was wondering to say, is it the very time when I started washing some other people's clothing? Although the other people's clothing that I used to wash, it wasn't like, it was just small things that a kid would handle. Yeah, that's all I used to wash, and it wasn't for everybody. It was just for my parents at that time, my guardians. Unnecessary shouting, unnecessary talking, unnecessary things being said, which made me have low self-esteem, self-doubt, wishing I didn't exist. The comments, and also when a kid wants to do something and someone is like, I don't think you can do that, and they laugh about it and they're like, how would you possibly do that? And then when it comes to me growing up with low self-esteem, I was always taught directly, I was always taught by this relative that I was ugly. She would say directly to me and say, you are ugly. And I don't even know where this came from. I don't know how these topics came about, because I would just get surprised and I'm being told, you are ugly, you are ugly, you are ugly, you are ugly. I registered it in my head, which was a shock for me, because growing up with my grandmother used to tell me, you are very beautiful. Honestly, she used to tell me like, you're very beautiful. And it was times when I was being mischievous. I remember once when I was refusing to go to school, and she was like, a very beautiful girl like you're refusing to go to school. Maybe if I'm sad, and she would tell me, you're very beautiful. I feel like even if a child is ugly genuinely, Don't tell them they're ugly. Do not. I don't know why African parents or guardians think they can just say just about anything and this child will be okay. And I don't think parents and guardians in Africa are well educated to actually know that there's something called trauma. Let's just go with trauma. Like, there's something called trauma, and trauma is not just something as intense as maybe this child was acid. Even the smallest things can traumatize somebody. If you're not showing care, you're not showing love, and you are saying negative things, that's also trauma. And this is what happened to me, because I grew up with low self-esteem. On the self-doubt, not really, because I would always push myself in school because I wanted a way out. I was like, I have to work hard so that I can get out and be on my own. Like, I finish school, I go to university, I find a job, and I just stay all on my own. I gotta get out from here. This was shocking to me, the "you are ugly" part, because I knew I looked exactly like my mom. And I always, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where, or if you've ever read any articles, babies don't look at you, they look through you. You'd be looking at the baby and you're thinking, like, what's this small little thing thinking about? Like, what are they looking at? What are they looking at? Like, they're looking deep in your soul. They're just not looking on your surface. And I feel like I used to do that a lot to my mom. So I used to look at her, and in my head I used to say, this woman is very beautiful. This woman is so beautiful. That's what I used to say. And mostly I used to tell myself, this woman has got really nice eyes. Like, my mom really had nice eyes, that woman. So now, for someone to tell you to say you are ugly, and I was always being compared to the people I was growing up with, like when we were buying some things, I would be told, this is not a good color for you because you are dark. I was also surprised as to why someone was telling me you are dark, because I wasn't dark. I wasn't born dark. I was brown. Of course, yes, the people I grew up with on the females, they were lighter than me, but I wasn't dark. No, I wasn't. So when someone is telling me you are dark, like, that color won't go for you because you are dark, in spite of me being treated in a mean way, I would try my best, like, to display kindness. I would try to start up conversations. I would try to show some concern. I remember once when I noticed my relative was depressed about something, I got concerned because I cared. So I gathered up my courage, because I should also mention that this relative was so scary. I had to gather up my courage. I knocked on the bedroom door and I asked them, are you okay? And this person goes like, that is none of your business. I was still there in the bedroom and I was like, I know it's none of my business, but I care about you. I can see you're not okay right now. And the person said, this is none of your business. So from then I was just like, okay, fine. Me being sick, there was no concern being shown. It was not alarming. I wasn't receiving the same attention. I'm not saying I should have received the same attention, but I feel like even if you don't like someone, if they're in that critical condition, just show, some care. Like, get alarmed, because what if this person dies? On 2 occasions, one of them, I had a migraine all day and it wasn't going away, and I didn't have medication. I tried taking water, I tried putting ice on my forehead, tried sleeping. I tried turning off the lights in the bedroom so that I could sleep in a dark room. It wasn't working. My head started pounding so badly, I thought that night I was going to die. If I tell you that this relative had received a visitor and I started screaming in the bedroom, I was screaming and I was using a certain title, which I'm not going to mention, the title well that I thought this person was to me. I was shouting and shouting. Okay, I'll just use the title parent, because I don't want to say which gender this person is exactly. So I was just like, parent. I tell you, I was screaming so loudly. I know this person heard me, that they were just ignoring me. I thought I was going to die. It felt as if someone was using a hammer and they were hammering me on my head. A big hammer, more like Thor's hammer. Yeah, so I thought I was gonna die, and I texted a friend from my church because this person also knew my situation. I texted them and I told them, please come and pick me up, I'm going to die. And they asked me like, what's up? I described what was happening and they couldn't come and pick me and I understood this person, because why would you just, someone has a guardian around, and then why would you just go and pick up someone because they've told you they're not okay? So I understood this person for not coming to pick me. Perhaps if this person was way older also, maybe if they were like a parent figure, then I feel like they would have come, yes. But this person was just my friend, and they were just a few years older than me, meaning they were still way younger than my guardian. Other occasions when I was sick and there was no concern being shown, I was just wishing, can I just slip away then, because I can't go on like giving specific examples or giving examples, but I'll summarize it by saying there were negative comments being passed around. The environment was always negative around this relative, because I've told you there were only 3 people that were good to me. When I was around these 3 people is when I felt better. Like, they were never mean to me. They were always nice to me. The same day when I narrated this dream to this parent figure, when they were enrolling me in school, this person tells me, I want you to stop using that surname. You are no longer so and so. You are now my daughter. Okay? I'm going to give another example so that you see the difference between these 2 parent figures. This person says, you are now my daughter. You are now so and so, so and so. This is your surname now. And I was like, oh wow, okay. Let me fast forward you into the future just to compare between these 2. I'll give another similar example of what the other parent figure said. I went to get my national registration card when I turned 16, and when we went to get my national registration card, this relative was being asked questions like, how come her birth certificate says this? Instead of this relative explaining properly, it's like this relative panicked and they thought they were in trouble, so they said so many things, so many confusing things, like, hey, like this person didn't say something straightforward. So this person says, this is just someone we adopted, we just adopted her. So now this officer says, if it's someone you just adopted, then I need to see the papers from court, the legal papers showing that you adopted this person. And at the end of this program, I was shouted at to say, this is your fault. I was actually upset that this relative said it's just someone we adopted, Of course, yes, I was adopted, but the choice of words that were picked is why the problem was. This relative shouts at me to say, this is your fault because you are given a bad attitude in there, and now the officer hasn't helped us. So compare these 2. This one is telling me, stop using this surname, you're now my daughter, and then this one goes like, it's just someone we adopted. I didn't actually think my life would become that way, because I thought these are just not random people I'm living with, so there's not gonna be a difference. The same way I was living with my grandmother and my mom is the same way it's gonna be for me. But it was different for me, and I had to accept it. I had to accept, because you just don't, fit yourself in a certain position. If you're not being accepted, accept it. So I accepted it, and as I got older, I told you that kids, things being shown around kids, things being said around kids, they'll carry it with them in their adulthood. When I got older, and it's like now, this is when these relatives started warming up to me a little bit, just a little bit. I got older and I stayed the person that my relatives wanted me to be. They started complaining. Like, why are you this type of a person? And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. I was like, what do you mean? I thought this is the position you put me in. So I'm used to being in this position. I'll give an example of the Cinderella story. Cinderella knew her position. So now, if the stepmother started telling her to say, like, why are you seated alone? Why are you not chatting with your siblings? Why are you being distant? Why don't you communicate? Cinderella would have been like, where is this coming from? Like, I'm used to talking to the mice and the birds and the prince, the one who loves me when, I turn into a princess at midnight. So this was surprising for me. I'm sure you get what I mean. I'll also give you another example of how adulthood is. There are some, especially women, there are some women, like you're both new in that environment, woman A and woman B. Woman A, in spite of not knowing woman B, warms up to woman B. They introduce themselves, they're just trying to be friendly, and then woman B doesn't want that. Like, she just shows it to say, hey, I don't want to be your friend. That I'm not saying it's bad, because even me, I don't like making friends. But even if you don't want to make friends, even if I don't want to make friends, I remain friendly. But I just give you that boundary to say, yo, I don't make friends, but we can be friendly with each other. So woman B shows it to woman A to say, yo, I don't want to be your friend. Like, don't even come close to me. Don't talk to me. Maybe perhaps woman A is not on woman B's level. Then after some time, when woman B discovers to say, oh, actually, woman A has something, woman B has something in common with woman A, or maybe, I don't know, just for some reason, she starts warming up to woman A and she starts getting close. Woman A will be weirded out. She'll be like, I thought, you didn't even want to talk to me. Why are you coming close to me? So that's how it was for me. I was used living a certain way with my relatives. I now understood my position, and now here are my relatives complaining to say, why are you this way? Why am I this way? You made me into this person. How do you expect me to be something that you didn't make me to be? You shaped me into a certain person. Don't expect me to be another person that you didn't shape me to be. So it was weird for me. So someone tells me, like, no, you don't could communicate, you're not close to me, like, you don't wanna, like, chat with me. And I'm like, okay. Everything that I used to do was a problem. Everything that I used to do was a problem. Everything that I used to do was a problem. And if I tell you I wasn't even mischievous in any way to cause any chaos, to cause any just mischievousness, but everything that I used to do was a problem. it would be BBC after BBC. Like, she's done this, she's done this. Even while there's no problem, there was a problem created. Even when I haven't done anything, I would have done something. Meetings after meetings after meetings, after meetings, like, you did this, why did you do this, and I would be like, what did I do? What have I done? That also got registered in my head, and I was like, I don't think I am fit to be around my relatives, because everything that I'm doing is wrong. Everything that I'm doing is bad. So let me find a way to be on my own, so that I'm not bothering you. Me creating a way to be just on my own and move away from everybody also became a problem, because they were like, why have you done that? Like, dude, what do you mean? You made me do these things. What do you mean? You made me become this person. You shaped me into this person. And the badness about human beings is that we always forget what we have done. So after you forget is when now you start warming up to someone, and you start asking them to say, but why? Why aren't you, like, coming to us? I'm like, dude, you shaped me, like, you trained me to be this person who wants to be on their own, because everything that I used to do was wrong, everything that I used to do was bad, and no one wanted me around. It's a training. If you don't know, parents, I'll emphasize again, it's a training, and once it's registered in the head, it can't get out, unless if you wipe my memory, because everything is registered in my head. She's not close to us, she doesn't want to be close to us, she doesn't communicate, she distanced herself, she chose to move away from her own family. Are you sure? Speaking generally, I'm not speaking to anyone directly. What is it that you did to this person for them to take these steps? Normally, when we are doing something to someone, we take it so lightly and it doesn't mean anything to us, whilst to the other person it means something, and it's a whole weight for them. You have to ask yourself, what is it that made this person take these steps? What is it that prompted this person to make these decisions? That is how my life changed after my mother died, and I can't blame anyone for anything, because it's hard. It's hard to be nice to someone who's not of your flesh. That is well understood. I'll summarize by saying the treatment, like being mean, saying mean comments, negative comments, being negative, being unnecessarily chaotic, saying unnecessary things, saying hurtful things just to hurt me. And it was like 3/4 of them. I told you, out of this big family, only 3 were good to me. It was, for example, if other relatives visit, I wasn't important. Like, when it comes to introductions, I wasn't important at all. I was just looked at as that, like that person, because I could see it in the treatment. Okay, these relatives will come, and the way they will be interacting with other people and the way they will interact with me, and I could feel that. I'm like, accept it. Not to say things should always be perfect, but it's very important to strive to make things perfect. I'll give you an example. Life won't always be straightforward. Maybe even me, I'll get to keep someone. But what I always tell myself is that I want to be as kind as possible, because I know what words do to a person. Words that would even drive someone to want to unalive themselves. That's how strong words are. I would want to be as kind as I can. I know it's not easy to keep someone who's not of your flesh, but I would want to be as kind as possible. Of course, chores are normal, scolding is normal and it's allowed. Anything that is normal and legal is allowed. But where you just want to be unnecessarily mean and negative and just all the bad ways you can think of, I feel like that's not right, you know. I wish I could give all the examples, but we would stay here all day. I think I'm just gonna give one more last example. Before my mom died, I think this actually even started before my mom died. I went to visit a relative because my grandmother sent me to them to take something. I reach, I find this person cutting chicken, and they tell me, for those that don't understand, like, you shouldn't be coming here unannounced. You should be informing me to say you are coming. And in my head, I was like, because of the chicken, the same chicken that I also eat at my grandma's and my mom's place is what, you know, you are spiraling about because of chicken. I'm not even interested in the chicken. What I learned from these experiences is to accept your position, because you are just being kept. That's a favor for you. Like, you're just being kept. You don't have the power to claim that you are a son, you are a daughter now. You don't have the power to tell someone to say, but I'm your blood. Why are you treating me like this? Accept your position. Okay? And be grateful that you're actually being helped. Yeah. I learned that I should focus on the most important things, because if you focus on the wrong things, of course, I'm human and it was hard to filter some things out, but I ensured that I focused on the most important things, which is why I am here today. It's very important to be forgiving. Don't be resentful. It's always important to be forgiving and to stay kind even to people that are not kind to you. If you haven't watched my video as to why I cut off my family members, go and watch it. The plan wasn't to cut them off, but since something too drastic happened, hence the decision of cutting them off completely. But I always choose forgiveness and kindness, and that's what you should also do. Choose forgiveness and kindness. Don't be vengeful. It doesn't help in any way. I know right now it seems like it wouldn't pay off being forgiving, but it actually pays off because it gives you some peace in your heart, and it gives you a peace of mind. It gives you calmness and peace in your heart. It just frees you. Like, it just helps you remain a very peaceful person, because when you're carrying this hate and hurt, it actually affects you, whilst the other people who we are being hateful towards are living good lives, and they're actually not even thinking about you. Yeah, the only one thinking about them, and they're actually not even paying attention to you. So imagine carrying so much hate in your heart. It won't help you in any way, because also it will derail you from focusing on the most important things, and you just be focusing on them, and you'll be like, they did this to me, this happens to me. Hey, I hope karma does something to them. Focus on yourself. All these things that I've mentioned are things that I have been striving to practice and not focus on what happens to me. My prayer is to make a very big difference for my children, because I know I can't fix myself. It's too late. I can't repair myself. So my prayer is to be different to my children. And if at all I won't be alive for very long, then my other prayer is that they end up with people who will be good to them. We said chores are no, that's not mistreatment. But hurtful words, mental torture, that's my prayer. Like, my kids shouldn't end up with such a person, because we'll go back to point A again. They'll become like me. Being around different relatives taught me so many things. For the ones that were not so nice, I learned to always remain kind. And I learned, and I told myself, I prayed about it, and my prayer was always, I don't want to turn out like them. The other side of my relatives, I learned also to keep on being kind, because the other side of my relatives are very, very kind people. I think this is what helps me survive in spite of whatever experiences I had, the negative experiences. I still had very good people to look up to. Yeah. Including those three I told you were different to me, and they weren't even my blood. So I always had good people to look up to. And I feel like those people saved me. The three people that were good to me that weren't even my blood, and also my blood relatives, the ones that were good people and are good people, are the ones that saved me, because I told myself, there isn't so much badness after all. There's just a smidge bit of badness, but it's not so bad after all. Thank you for watching how my life changed after my mom died. I feel like this story was long overdue. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please watch my videos, share, so that someone out there can learn from my experiences, from my mistakes, and they can avoid them. Or if it's experiences, they can learn something and know how to handle whatever experience which is similar to mine that they're going through. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe so that you keep up with my real life story times. Like and comment if you've ever gone through, like some hardships. Comment. Thank you for watching my story time today and my stories. Reminder, my stories, my experiences, not your story. I'm not telling your story. I'm telling my story. My story.